It goes without saying that this offseason is extremely important to the Detroit Lions as they try to get their Super Bowl dreams to be a reality in 2025. But there are rumblings that are happening within the Detroit Lions fan base that are very concerning, and it's about time we had a talk about it. We're going to do that, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. Folks, I'm going to tell you something. I've been a Lions fan for 25 years almost of my natural life. And for me, I have seen all manner of things happen over the off seasons that I've been a fan. I have, watched how fans have gotten excited. I've seen how fans have been absolutely dismal. I've seen it all. I've witnessed it all. And I'm telling you this right now. While I am happy beyond all measure that Lions fans are excited about, the direction that the team's going in as far as, hey, we've been successful, things are going in the right direction as far as, hey, we've had success, blah, 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 blah. There is a dangerous rumbling, if you will, that is kind of starting to bubble over, and it's kind of getting me a bit concerned here. Now, some people might think, well, okay, David, that's interesting, but why should we be concerned about it? Well, here's the reason why you should be. When it comes to this offseason, how do I put this? I have seen more fans getting absolutely bent out of shape, losing their proverbial cool, absolutely just getting ridiculously rude and just absolutely going off on people if for whatever reason you happen to disagree with them on what the Lions should do. Now, obviously, I'm talking about Lions fans, but there are some people that you could technically say have an interest in the Lions that aren't Lions fans. But they have an interest in the Lions, and they're just football fans in general. But the point of the matter is that this entire offseason, so far, and it's not even that old, let's be honest, but so far there has been such a war, if you will, with these fans over feelings, the strategy that goes along with those feelings, and the unceremonious thought process that comes with this huge issue about edge rusher. I mean, for crying out loud, if you go back to 2021, it used to be we had so many different opportunities to go different ways, so there was no real way to argue which way the team should go. Now, most people would say that we had to go one way or the other, but there was never such a clear, there was no such thing as a clear-cut decision on which way we had to go. If you think about it, for the first couple of years Brad Holmes was here, there were people that were saying, oh, well, he needs to go defense. There were others that said he had to go quarterback. There was no clear-cut decision. But this offseason, it is just that's all anybody's talking about is edge rusher, edge rusher, edge rusher, edge rusher. Pass rusher, pass rusher, pass rusher, pass rusher. That is all anybody is talking about. And you know what? I get it. I understand it. But the fact of the matter is that we have so many fans now that have gotten caught up into this matrix of that's all we're focusing on, that if you, for whatever reason, if you try to disseminate from that conversation, if you try to take someone's eye off that ball, you get painted sometimes as if, one, you're not truly interested in what's going on, or two, you're trying to change the story, you're trying to change the narrative, when it's no, it's called, we can't just focus totally on that. But that's only part of the problem. let's just say, for example, you do decide to talk about it, and you do decide to throw your hat in the ring. You then get people who are like, oh, well, if you don't give me the idea that I want to hear, then you just don't know football, that you're just an idiot. And it's like, wait a minute here, time out, back up. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That phrase has been around since forever. So when I hear these fans out here that are just absolutely like, no, it's got to be this way or else. And then I naturally have to ask myself, what's the or else? Because that's where I truly think that this Detroit Lions fandom that we have right now, like my title says, is dangerously close to making a terrifying move. Now, what exactly in the hell do I mean by that? Well, again, let's just play the advocate card of what's been going on. You go to Facebook, you go to Twitter, you take a look at some of these videos that are talking about edge rushers. I've had several of them already, and I have seen comments on all three levels: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, not even my own channel, some other channels. There are people that are absolutely stating these horrendous things that if they don't get what they want, that if, Brad Holmes does not trade for Myles Garrett, doesn't trade for Max Crosby, doesn't do this, doesn't do that, that they're going to be done. And I'm just like, wait a minute here, back up. What do you mean done? And that's when it comes out that, oh, well, I'm just going to give up on the team. I'm done. I don't want anything else to do with it. Because at that point then, they believe that the Lions are never going to win. Because in their eyes, it's like, it's all this or nothing else. And that's where I sit back. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute here. Ironically enough, I'm having to have a conversation where I'm trying to converse with people who believe fervently that they know better than Brad Holmes on how to run, manage, and execute the intricate decisions of a multi-billion, not million, multi-billion dollar sports franchise. See, that's the thing about this that just absolutely just drives me up a wall. Because I'm going to say this right now. I've listened to both sides of the argument, and I have tried my best to stay neutral on that argument. Yes, there is value, there is merit to potentially trading for a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby. Never have denied that. Never once have said that that is not something that would make absolute sense if we were to make it work. My only objection to that thought process, has been this. How do you manage to pull it off? If Brad Holmes can pull it off, great. If not, then we're having a conversation in a war of words over nothing. That's the part about this that probably irritates me more than anything, is that we're having a war of words, some of these fans, and it's over something that hasn't even happened yet. And again, has a very high unlikelihood of happening, because unless Brad Holmes decides to make that decision, there's no point in really having an argument. Again, you have to take a look at Brad Holmes' track record. Could he change it up? Absolutely he could. But again, the Lions have been creatures of habit for the last 4 years. I sincerely doubt they're going to change everything. But if they do, then I'm fine with it. That's, again, that very fine line you have to walk. And I've tried my best to walk it. It's like, listen, I'm not averse to the trade. But I live in the world of reality where it's like, listen, I just don't see it happening. But if it happens, I'm cool with it. But that's the thing, is that for some people, that's not good enough. For some, it's like you absolutely 100% have to agree that the trade is the only thing that makes sense. Otherwise, you don't know football, that you are a traitor, or that you just absolutely don't give a crap about the Lions. And it's like, wait a minute here. That literally makes no damn sense. Because the idea that if you have any sort of thought process that is different from trading for Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, that somehow that doesn't make you a fan, or somehow that makes you not able to understand football, and that if you think that Brad Holmes is going to do the same, that you're going to denounce Brad Holmes because he's the worst GM in NFL history, or you think he's the worst GM in Lions history, that to me is just absolutely unfathomable thinking. And I'm going to tell you why. not only just from the logical perspective is that not making any sense, let's just take a look at the actual evidence of what Brad Holmes has done. Again, this is why I say dangerously close to rebellion. And to me, it's like, I don't understand why you have fans that would want to rebel. I don't understand why you'd even want to have that treacherous notion. Because let's understand something here. What has Brad Holmes done since he's been here? Think about it, folks. First year he was here, 3-13-1. Second year, 9-8. Third year, 12-5. Fourth year, 15-2. Again, I'm not a mathematician, but 3-9 is +6, 9-12 is +3, 12-15 is +3. Every single year that Brad Holmes has been the GM, that Dan Campbell has been the head coach, Jared Goff has been the quarterback, there has been consistent and marked improvement every single year. You go from being 3-13-1 to having a winning record the very next season. That's impressive. You go from being 3-13-1 to winning the division and winning 12 games to tie a franchise record in 2 years. That's impressive. You go from 3-13-1 to winning 15 games in 3 years from the end of the first season, having 2 division titles back to back. That's impressive. Because let's think about this. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, what have they done since they've been here? Oh, that's right. We've had 2 consecutive playoff berths. We've had 2 playoff wins. The first playoff wins that we've had in 30 plus years at that time. We made an NFC Conference Championship game appearance. First time in 30-something plus years. And we're this damn close to getting to a Super Bowl berth. And, lest we forget, we got our first number 1 overall seeding for the playoffs this year. So, the fact that you have these fans that are so, I can't even think of another word, but they've kind of gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over just, it has to be Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or nothing else is going to work. It's like, dude, wait a minute here. It's like, do you not understand what you're saying? Freaking Brad Holmes has built this roster through multiple avenues. He didn't just do it through trade. He didn't just do it through free agency. He didn't just do it through the draft. He did it through multiple areas to get the roster to where it is. But yet you're saying if he doesn't do this one thing this way, then he's an idiot. That Lions fans that support them are idiots. I'm sorry. Since when did you become the expert on all things Lions? When did you become Brad Holmes himself, and that Brad Holmes apparently is an imposter to himself? Because that's the part about this that just drives me crazy, is because it's like, wait a minute here. Not only can we take a look at the results of what the Lions have done since Brad Holmes has been here, let's take a look at who Brad Holmes has brought in. Because again, Brad Holmes, in my opinion, arguably one of the best NFL GMs. Top 3 in my opinion. Top 3. You've got to have him and Howie Roseman in the conversation for at least the best in the NFL. But take a look at what Brad Holmes has done since he's been here. The man has proven himself to be capable to navigate every single avenue that the NFL affords teams to build a roster successfully. Let me just put it out there for you, folks. Let's take a look at his draft record, which is by far his biggest one, but it's still impressive to this day. In 4 years as the NFL GM, these are the guys that he's drafted that have become staples not only of the Lions team, but some of them become actual stars already in the NFL. Penei Sewell, Aleem McNeil, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hutchinson, Jamo, Kirby, Rodrigo, Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, freaking, Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Terrion Arnold, Ife Melifonwu. Dude, there's got to be almost a dozen names there. In 4 years, a dozen names. I'm telling you this right now, for most NFL GMs to have a resume of that nature over a period of 4 years of drafting success, that's damn near unprecedented. And yet you've got people out here that say, no, we don't want to draft a guy. Drafting a guy is going to take too long. Really? How long did it take Aiden Hutchinson to become a full-on, actual impact player? Less than 2 years. Because think about it. Oh, that's right. His rookie year, he had 9.5 sacks. His second season, 12.5 sacks. It took him less than 2 years to become an impact player. Less than 2 years. We don't need to actually, how do I put this? The Detroit Lions defensive line unit as it is, if it's fully healthy, it's one of the best in the NFL. I haven't said that up until now, but I'm going to say it now. Because think about it. Take a look at that line. From one side to the other, you have Zadarius Smith, you have DJ Reader, you have Ali McNeil, and you've got Aiden Hutchinson. That is a formidable front four. And, mind you, we've never seen all four of them play together. Because, that's right, Hutch was out when we got Zadarius. And then on top of that, we lost McNeil towards the end of the year. We lost McNeil towards the end of the year after we'd gotten Zadarius. We've never seen all four of them play together. So, we're talking about adding something here, and we haven't even seen the current group that we've already got work and play together. That's a little bit interesting in my opinion. Now, I do agree it always makes sense to add more talent, but you're wanting to get into a war of words and tell people they're idiots if they don't go out and get Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, and it's like, well, wait a minute here. We haven't even seen what we got fully together on the field, and we're talking about bringing in another player. I'm like, I can understand why you would want to add another piece, but you're wanting to sell the entire farm to bring in another player when we've already got a pretty good front four. An excellent front four, in my opinion. Because I put this out there to you. The only defensive line unit that's probably better than ours is right now, from top to bottom, is the Eagles. That I would probably put as my personal opinion. But to get back to Brad Holmes, his drafting success has been absolutely just ridiculous. You've got guys in here that have only been in the league for 2 years and they're already household names. Branch, Gibbs, Laporta, dare I go on? Then you take a look at the other aspects that Brad Holmes has brought in for this team. How about the trade avenue? Definitely not his most used avenue, but he's had success there too. Obviously, there's the granddaddy trade of them all that got all the draft picks, the Goff trade. Then you take a look at the Zadarius Smith trade. Then you take a look at the Carlton Davis trade. All three of those guys I just talked about. Granted, Zadarius and Carlton Davis have only been here for one half a season and the other actually a full season. But while they were here, they had an impact for us. They definitely helped us out. And Goff is the franchise quarterback. So you can't say that he doesn't have an issue with trading or he hasn't been successful trading either. But it's definitely been his least used avenue out of all three. Because when you take a look at his free agency success, there's actually quite a number of names there. David Montgomery, Alex Anzalone, DJ Reader, Jake Bates, Kevin Zeitler, Graham Glasgow, Tim Patrick, Josh Reynolds. There's a lot of guys that he's brought in through the free agency on decently good deals, some of them absolutely amazing deals, and they have made impact performances for us. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to show you that, again, Brad Holmes uses all avenues to make this roster what it is. He doesn't just use one primary avenue to build a roster. Yes, he's done a lot of building through the draft, which is the smart way to build. But he's also been using other avenues. So what does that show? It shows the depth and it shows the great ability that Holmes has demonstrated in building and maintaining the roster over the years. And what does that mean? It means that Brad Holmes understands what he's doing. And it also means that Brad Holmes is not going to just, throw all of his eggs into a basket unless he feels it's the best decision. So when you have these Lions fans that absolutely want to get their knickers in a twist because it's like, it has to be Max Crosby or Myles Garrett or nothing else, it's like, wait a minute here. Who was the person that got you to the dance? Who was the person that got you to this point? And you're trying to dictate terms to that person and say, if you don't do this, you're an idiot. Begging your pardon here, but what were the Lions before Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell showed up? Oh yeah, that's right. They were nothing. We were laughing stocks. We were losers. Because let me just put this out there for y'all, folks. You guys want to know something? I actually had to look this up. And I'll tell you here in a minute. because I want to finish making my points here really quickly. Not only has Brad Holmes demonstrated how to build a roster through all avenues, but he also knows when the right time to pounce is. What do I mean by that? This is a skill that I like to talk about that most people don't, but if you think about it, a GM has to know when it's the right time to make a move. Sometimes it's all about knowing timing. Well, think about it with Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes has demonstrated this at least several times. Take a look at the trade for McNeil. He traded up to get McNeil because he knew he wasn't going to last that much longer. We got McNeil, and the other team, if I recall correctly, was the actual Eagles. They got disappointed. Take a look at the trade for Branch. Traded up to get him when we knew he wasn't going to last much longer. Take a look at when he traded back to the last spot available to go and get Gibbs. Not only so that way he could get more draft capital, but that way he could still get a great player in Gibbs. Then you take a look at the Goff contract. Freaking Brad Holmes gave Jared Goff his contract first out of all the major quarterbacks that got their contracts a year ago. Well, by the time all those other quarterbacks got their contracts, Goff's contract had been dwarfed by like 3 or 4 times by the time it was all said and done. So even though Goff was the first quarterback paid, meaning he was the highest paid quarterback at the time, you have to think about it. Because Brad Holmes was so smart about how he did it, it literally, quite literally, allowed us to sit back and be like, oh, because of this, we now have gotten a great quarterback at a great price in comparison to other guys. Just saying. And then finally, let's think about this one last thing really quickly before I end my episode. Everybody wants to say that Brad Holmes has to make this move or else it's not going to be available ever again, or that, you know what, we're going to run out of cap space, we're going to run out of this, we're going to run out of that. Let's just imagine this thing here really quickly. The Lions have what, like $47 million worth of cap space to work with? That's before the actual cap number for this year has come out, which is probably going to raise it about another $10 to $15 million at the very minimum. Then on top of that, Brad Holmes is going to get draft comp picks at the very least just for Aaron Glenn. We don't know if we're going to lose any guys in free agency that might give us some draft compensation as well, but we already know we're at least getting 1 third-round draft pick this year. So when you think about all that, Brad Holmes has got an immense amount of resources to work with to ensure that if he wants to make that move, he can. But again, as I just demonstrated, Brad Holmes has made moves through multiple avenues, and that's how he's built the roster the way it is. So why would you want to wreck with a winning formula? Again, this is what goes back to what freaking Dan Campbell said about how everybody gets so used to having the steak after a while that they forget about the fact they used to have macaroni and cheese. They used to have freaking hamburger helper. It's like, dude, it wasn't that long ago when we were pretty much, dining in the dumpster. Now we're dining at the Ritz and everyone's like, oh, well, we got to keep having more. You do realize that if you want to continue to stay where you're at, you have to be smart. You can't just throw everything you've got into the center and hope it works. That mindset only works a little bit of the time, and it often is not very sustainable. But let me just put this into perspective for you about what I'm talking about the Lions and the current success they've had right now. You've got all these people that are complaining and threatening rebellion against Brad Holmes if he doesn't make this decision to trade for Max Crosby or Myles Garrett. Okay, I could understand when it was Quinn, when it was Millen, even a little bit with Martin Mayhew. But Brad Holmes should not be receiving any of this criticism. There's no 2 ways around it. Because let me put it out there for you. When was the last time, does anybody know this? I actually do, and I'm going to tell you, but does anybody know just off the top of their heads, when was the last time that the Lions had 3 consecutive winning seasons in a row? Because think about that. The Lions have had 3 consecutive winning seasons. We were 9-8, 12-5, and 15-2. 3 consecutive winning seasons. The last time that happened, prior to when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were in town, from 2022 to 2024, that's right. That hasn't happened since 1993 to 1995. I was born in 94, folks. It took almost the entire length of time that I've been alive for the Lions to have 3 consecutive winning seasons again. Then on top of that, you want to know what was the last time before that? 1969 to 1972. You're talking about quite literally almost a 30-year gap between both times of it happening. That's ridiculous. And then, think about this one, folks. When was the last time that the Lions won 2 straight division titles? Because think about that. Under Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, we've won 2 straight division titles. The last time the Lions won 2 straight division titles was in 1952 to 1954, which was when we also won our championships. Think about that. 52 to 54. But yet you've got these people out here that are saying, oh, well, if Brad Holmes doesn't make this trade for Garrett or Crosby, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with the team. It's SOL. It's the same old Lions. They're too cheap. They don't want to actually win a Super Bowl. They're just hemming us along, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, fools. Let me remind you something here. Rome was not built in a day. And 2, the Lions are not interested in a one-and-done kind of success story. They want to be able to win multiple Super Bowls. And I know for every Lions fan that wants to say, I don't care about multiple Super Bowls, I only want one. Well, tough on you. You ain't in charge. It's Brad Holmes that's in charge. It's Dan Campbell that's in charge. It's Sheila that's in charge. And what they want is to have a multi-successful program that can win Super Bowls not just 1 year, but multiple years. So for those that want to say that they're not going to stay around if Brad Holmes doesn't make this decision, then you know what? I have to ask you this question. Are you really honestly that loyal of a fan? Because when you bring out something like that, what that tells me is there's immaturity there and there's arrogance there, because you want to tell somebody that has been paid millions of dollars to do this job and has proven they've done the job well that you supposedly know more than they do. I'm not saying I know more than Brad Holmes, but what I am saying is this. Based upon what Brad Holmes has done, I'm going to trust what he's doing rather than calling into question everything he's doing. Think about that. Ever since I've been a podcaster, I have tried my absolute best to defend what Brad Holmes has done as far as his roster decisions, because name me one thing he's done that he has, how do I put this? Name me one thing he's done to where I have a right to question him. He took a mediocre roster at best and made it into a Super Bowl contending roster in less than 4 years. I have no reason to get impatient with him. I have no reason to show immaturity. I have no reason to get arrogant. It's like, listen, the man's done his job. Let him continue to do his job. If you're going to now all of a sudden say that, oh, well, I'm going to just quit on the team if you don't give me what I want, can you really call yourself a loyal Lions fan at that point? Can you really honestly call yourself that? Just saying. And again, that's why I'm saying we have to have this talk, because this is getting ridiculous. When I'm constantly having to hear so much of this stuff all over the different social media platforms, it's like, okay, we've got a problem here. And somebody needs to step up and say, okay, time the hell out, back the hell up. We need to get some priorities straight. But anyway, I'm going to end this episode. This rant has gone on long enough. So having said that, I'm going to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to highly encourage y'all, please, to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. And with that, even if you might not have liked the content, I hope you got something out of the content. I hope at the very least it gives you something to think about. Maybe you don't agree with me, but hopefully it gives you something to think about, gives you a different perspective to look at. But I also hope that everybody out there has got something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.